From Colby Covington becoming the most hated fighter in Brazil, to Michael Bisping spitting at the crowd, here are the times when UFC fighters disrespected their own fans. Starting with the notorious Conor McGregor. I mean, is this one really a surprise? One of McGregor's most popular feuds has been with Khabib Nurmagomedov before their bout in UFC 229. The tension between the two was insane, and unfortunately the fans had to suffer because of it. The Irishman showed up at Barclays Center just after the end of UFC 223 Media Day to confront one of the main event fighters. You would think he would scream at them, say something offensive, or even try to start a physical fight after a few vile names. But this guy exceeded all expectations. The 34-year-old threw a steel dolly through the window of a bus. It was aimed at lightweight champion Khabib, but the bus had other fighters and UFC staff as well who were injured during this attack. This wasn't just disrespect, it was a whole crime. Michael Chiesa was hit in the head, and other fighters were cut, hit, or injured and had to walk to their hotel rooms injured. Of course, the fans took this way too personally. Many saw their favorite fighters get hurt because of a petty fight going too far. Twitter lit up with hatred for him, with one fan calling him unhinged and insane for ruining an event and his own reputation. I think it's fair to say that tons of fans lost all respect for McGregor after that. Of course, the act pretty much called for some tough consequences, and Khabib took care of that, much to the disappointment of his fans. The dude literally fights bears, so an Irish guy who tried to injure him isn't the least bit scary to him. The pair fought at UFC 229, where the Russian-born dominated the Notorious with a fourth-round submission. But the anger didn't subside there. He said something to Conor after having him tap out, and turned to his opponent's corner and threw his mouthguard at Dylan Dennis, egging him on. The Eagle climbed over the fence and jumped towards him, and a huge brawl started, inside the octagon and outside. Punches were being thrown, but this time with no constraints, and apparently even some fans of both fighters got in the middle of it. Dana White, the president of UFC, didn't put a belt on Khabib, afraid of more violence, so he was let out with fans pelting debris on him. Fans were extremely disturbed on both ends and felt hurt that things went far yet again. Although Khabib's clean record in and out of the cage and his apology helped him regain the admiration, Conor's shaky past and actions are still booed to this day. Charges weren't pressed this time, but he has definitely seen the inside of a jail. I mean, remember the time when the MMA fighter was arrested in Florida for breaking a fan's phone? That's right. How it went down is that the fighter and the fan were exiting a hotel at the same time. The fan tried to get a picture with him, but what he didn't expect was the fighter's reaction. Conor slapped the phone out of the guy's hand, and when it fell on the floor, he stomped on it many times, damaging it. The police stated that the phone was worth $1,000. For a fan, that's almost the same as his heart being thrown and stomped on by his favorite fighter. McGregor was arrested in Miami Beach on suspicion of robbery and criminal mischief, and I mean, he deserved it, especially since he walked off with the shattered remains of the phone. Now, another fighter who had to deal with some serious consequences of his actions is Michael Bisping. If UFC wants to be taken seriously as an elite sports organization, they need to start controlling the drama between the fighters. It gets too far and too personal. Firstly, he spat at Jorge Rivera's corner during a bout with him, even though he later said he was aiming for the floor. But the video replay clearly shows his aim and intention, and spitting at the crowd like that didn't really get him any bonus points. Plus, in the same fight, he hit his opponent with an illegal knee. For both his stunts, Bisping had to face disciplinary action and the loss of his win bonus. And if that wasn't enough, fans started referring to him as Michael Spitzbing. Another time, he was booed off the stage during a weight cut for going over the limit. Joe Rogan tried to get a bit more love out from the crowd, but they were too disappointed at him. The emotional Brit snatched the mic and said he doesn't care about getting any love, and gave a big screw you to everyone. He then gave a two-finger salute to the crowd, one from each hand, particularly the middle one, and walked off. Fans who pay to watch you fight don't like being flipped off for your own mistake, Bisping, but the UFC king of trash talking, Chael Sonnen, has beef with a whole category of fans. I don't know what this man has against Brazil. Honestly, it's a little insane. He's always talked disrespectfully about Brazilian fighters, but to hate the entire country, it makes no sense. He ridiculed the country by suggesting that they don't have access to basic amenities. While trash-talking Anderson Silva, he said that the fighter is not from a bowing culture since they bow in Brazil, and when you do, they hit you over the head and take your wallet out of your pocket. I just want to take a moment to wonder if a stolen wallet in the country is why he's so pressed. But hey, he's not the only one with this hatred. Colby Covington also hates Brazil. Someone needs to do research on why UFC fighters dislike the country so much, because he was unapologetic after his extremely offensive statements. After his victory over Damian Maia in Sao Paulo, the fighter was raging over his win. In a fiery post-fight interview, he said he should have knocked out the opponent instead of winning by a unanimous decision. Then he said Brazil is a dump and called the crowd filthy animals. Obviously, the American was met by loud and angry boos, because he was in their country fighting a match they paid for and disrespecting them. As he left the octagon, he literally had to be shielded by security because everyone was throwing things at him from the crowd. Despite the huge backlash, he doubled down on his stance. His apology was a joke. He said when he went to work, he was screamed at, spit at, and assaulted by objects by an angry crowd, and about 10,000 people screamed that he was going to die. So he said he's formally apologizing to any filthy animal he offended by comparing them to his hosts in Sao Paulo. Then there's the case of choking people that UFC fighters can't seem to get under control. Nate Diaz got in a street fight and choked a man till he was unconscious. MMA fighters aren't trained to take fights to the streets. I mean, the whole point of the sport is that it stays in the octagon. But I think Diaz did not get the memo. He started a physical altercation by chucking a water bottle at Netflix reality star Chase Damore. Then he guillotined a man into unconsciousness. A video of the fight went live on Twitter, which showed Diaz hurting the guy. He has a history of fights outside the cage, like the infamous Strikeforce Nashville brawl or the one against Khabib. Fellow fighters like Jake Paul and McGregor mocked him, but the disrespect remains. It's unethical for fans to suffer because these fighters can't keep their hands to themselves. Because John Jones was no different. I don't care if the fan asked for it or not. As a trained fighter with special abilities, these abilities should never be demonstrated or practiced on fans. But one fan wanted just that, for Jones to choke him and knock him out. And well, the fighter was more than happy to make his wish come true. After putting the fan to sleep, he revived the poor guy by lifting his feet, and then the pair hugged it out when he woke up. So it wasn't all bad, but I still think it's better if these fighters start showing their skills in the cage and not outside of it, especially when they already have a negative rep for their arrogance and temper. That's all on the times UFC fighters disrespected fans. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.